The vulnerable are powerful, and the most gangster thing you can do is serve all the way live.
My mic fell. Did you see that?
I didn't. I
You
didn't see
didn't
it.
catch it?
I
Well,
didn't catch it.
I think I'm back down. I think I'm back down. This is the All the Way Live podcast, man. And yo, Miles, I love how you bring us into that every day. And I don't want to skip over how important those words are, man. The vulnerable are powerful, and the most gangster thing you can do is serve. And what we serve on this show is that carefully curated content for your cranium every week. We dishing it out like clockwork. We don't miss dates. Content's getting better. Conversations getting hotter.
We surgical with this.
More people are listening in, bro. This is pretty cool. This is pretty cool, I'm gonna say.
Yo, I dig it. It always feels good, but now if it feels, it feels better. The more the merrier. It couldn't be truer. So welcome. What up? Get comfortable and whatnot.
Yeah, get comfortable because over here, man, what we say is that this is a space that even if it's one person, 10 people, 1,000 people, 10 million people, it doesn't matter. Absolutely everybody is welcome to this space of peace, to this space of being able to get a little bit, even if we're giving people just a moment in a day of a dose of your happiness and encouragement and motivation to say, keep on going forward because this life thing is beautiful. And how we encapsulate that beauty is into three separate portions of the show. We got Stumble Upon, we got Current News, and we got Recommended and Review. Now, today's show, stacked with conversation. We're going to be talking about Black Dads, Power Grids, Cristiano Ronaldo, messing up with Coke. We're talking about music. There's so many things to be able to get to.
Yeah, man. I'm just happy to see us back in the kitchen, serving up, the freshest of the fresh. You know what I'm saying? There's mad music out. We are officially back. And that can only mean great things for the All the Way Live podcast, man. We had the Polo G album, the Migos album dropped last week. You know what I'm saying? We had Voice of the Heroes. That was so much fun for me to talk about. This week we got the Her album. This week we got Gold Link, one of our favorite artists, an artist that back from the selection days we've been messing with. Oh man, and the new Isaiah Rashad is hot too.
That's right. That's right. We've been blessed with some good hip hop and good music.
I'm overwhelmed.
I think very soon we got to start just putting the full episodes on Patreon because we be having a whole party before we even start recording. We be fully jamming out listening to our favorite type of music. That's secret. That is how pre-production is. Just listening to music.
Everybody who gets to see pre-production happen in real time is always very amazed at how fluid it is. It's very loose. You know what I'm saying? And I think, yeah, as we try to bring people, a little bit of joy, a little bit of happiness, that would be something to share. The only thing that gets in the way of that is the monetization of playing music. We do want those artists, to get whatever bread that they're supposed to get from that. But where can we put it where it makes sense? So there are
Yeah,
conversations to be had about that.
for
And
sure.
even if it's just creating a separate channel under and then just letting that one be demonetized content, we'll figure it out and bring it to you. That's what we
Yeah.
do.
That's what we do. That's what we do. Hey man, listen, I don't know about you, but when it comes to this here list that we have in front of us, I don't even know where you want to start picking at it first, which one you wanna reach for. We just got a litany of options.
Well, I know where I want to start first, and you did the intro so smooth. We got into it that I forgot to acknowledge that yet and still this podcast is brought to you from the illustrious Gallery Momo. You know what I'm saying? You could tell by the art that my brother. I'm gonna need you to start switching up the art. I know that one is fly, but I know you have access to such a collection that why would we not switch that up? You know what I mean?
It's laborsome, bro. You gotta it's laborsome. You gotta take it
Look,
down. You gotta resize it. You need to.
Look at me voluntelling you. Look at me voluntelling you. I don't know, but maybe I saw another podcast switch something up, and I was like, man, we got to be fresh. I don't know.
No, but this is a real talk. Not even to cut you on that, but like that's the beauty of letting art live in a space for a while, right? Because this is a multi-dimensional space. This isn't the only thing, and this station isn't the only thing in this space. And giving art some time. That's something I learned from from Gallery Momo is just being able to let a piece sit for a minute and then see what happens.
Oh well, see, you're educating us. So forgive my you know, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just trying to. I'm anxious. I want to make it. I want to shift them. Show them everything we got. You let it marinate like a fine wine. I dig that. I can get with that vibe. But on this side, you already know what's going on, man. The podcast is brought to you from Chicago. That means this jaunt is recorded on stolen land. Yep. Chicago, this land that we bring this to you from was cared for by the Potawatomi people, the Council of the Three Fires, and the indigenous people that were here that cared for the land. The violence done to them to remove them from this land is inseparable from the violence we see in this city today, this country today, and this world today. So we got to lift up for love for indigenous people the world over, love between Black and brown people
Yes,
the world
sir.
over. Intro over. Now, Black dads.
We're recording this on Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the Black dads out there, or just all the dads in general out there. I think it's not just Black Dad Father's Day. I think it's just Father's Day. So to everyone being a father.
Yeah, what up, man? We have friends. Shout out to Nick. Hold on, one time.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, man. We have friends that are recently becoming fathers. You know, I say Black dads because I don't think it's easily overlooked, and I want to I don't know, celebrate and put it out there. We both have dads. You know what I mean? For our white listeners out there, they might not know how prominent that is. I know at least in America, there's a lot of even having it. There's two things that always are just very apparent to me on Father's Day. Is that one, not all Black folks in America have a dad, and two, all Black men are expected to be dads. Now, those two things might seem contradictory, but really they're not, right? Because, yeah, we're not gonna get into all of that. But it's funny because
Where do zaddies lie in that spectrum?
Nah, dude. See, you're getting into those deep waters that
Okay.
we won't traverse today.
Okay.
But it's just funny as I go to the grocery store, people are always wishing me happy Father's Day, very much as if I must have kids, right? In my upper 20s as a Black man in the hood, I think the expectation is that I have kids. But also there's a beautiful, I think, movement to acknowledge single mothers on Father's Day. There's a movement to make space for people who've had a different experience, especially in spaces where a lot of us have strained relationships with our dads. But I wanted to acknowledge Black dads in that. I think both of our dads have had overwhelmingly positive, influences on our lives.
For sure. And I'm glad you didn't skip over the fact that not a lot of people actually have dads, right? And a lot of days like this, we forget that some people this brings them pain. You know, this is a reminder maybe of a loss or a absence, whatever it is. So sending love to those people too, sending love to those people too. And in days like this, where it seems like everybody is celebrating something that you might not have, the reality is you have power over that day, in terms of what you decide to celebrate. If you want to celebrate yourself, it's like, listen, I was my own dad growing up, and you want to throw yourself a Father's Day celebration, let that be that. No one is there to tell you otherwise, but it is important. I'm glad you acknowledged that. And also shout out to my dad. Spoke to him this morning, told him, hey man, the more I understand you, the more I understand me. Thank you for being there. I'm a gentleman because of it. And yeah, man, it's definitely a blessing for sure.
Yeah, big facts. I did the same. I hit my dad up. One of the things that one of the things that he passed down to me was Calvin and Hobbes, the comic book. So he had them joints, actually the books, right, of comics. And he had the old school collection. Some stuff I wasn't allowed to touch until I was older. But he passed down Calvin and Hobbes. And so in Calvin and Hobbes, Calvin refers to his dad as Pops. And so in all my greeting cards and whenever I write him letters, what up, Pops? Thank you, Pops, or whatever. And on his birthday and on Father's Day, I send him a Calvin and Hobbes comic. That's an interaction between Calvin and his dad. So that was something I got to share with him earlier today. So yeah, man, it's a
That's
special
beautiful.
time. Shout out to all the dads. Yeah, man, I was dope. You know what I mean? Just to be able to, it makes me look forward to being able to pass that down and have that legacy of just not only passing down stability and passing down, love, but also humor, right? That's something I think that introduced me and opened me up to very early, was just the funnies, you know, and just
Yeah.
like sharing that. And so, yeah, man, shout out to everybody sharing, passing down, creating legacies in that way and others.
For sure. And I was listening to, it might have been Javante Davis or somebody saying that the absence of, there's a particular pain that comes with an absence of a father figure in one's life, but there is room to be excited about the type of father that you want to be, and learning how, and learning yourself in the ways that you want to be better, and the type of family that you want to create, and execute that on an incredible, execute that how you would like to. So it's, I always like to remember people who might be in pain in days that we celebrate, so we hug them and we welcome them too. And hopefully
Yeah,
they're not sweating too much, because I'm hearing the US is about as hot as Dubai.
bro, it's wild hot. You know what I'm saying? The first thing you said to me when I jumped on this joint was you were like, "Yo, you look very summerish," and I look very. I'm summer dynamic, which means I'm trying to look good and not sweat all the time. Right? Headband, it looks pretty, but it's also a dark color mask, the little beads that be dripping down, keeps them off my face. You know what I'm saying? I teach you with this stuff. But yes, man, we are experiencing a heat wave. I love Chicago in the summertime. I'll open with that. I'll start with love. I love Chicago in the summertime. Like, yo, you can say what you want about it in the winter, but there's really no place like it when it's a beautiful day. The other day we had a nice 81-degree day, breezy, man, chilling on the lakefront. You can't beat that.
Yeah, Chicago summer is incredible. Like it's one of those things that is of note. It's like having cheese in France, or wine in Italy. There's a summer in Chicago. There's a palpable feeling to it. It's a thing.
Yep, you could taste it.
You can taste it for
Taste
sure.
it. Right? But that 81-degree day has been very much like not the norm. It's been hot, bro. It's been 99. It's been 100, and we're in the beginnings of June.
What's that
Right?
in
So
Celsius?
I can't do all the. I did the calculations that were pertinent to the news story that I'm walking us into, but I don't have the. I didn't. It wasn't like a. It might have came off in pre-pro. Like I was like, yeah, dude, 120 Fahrenheit is what, 49 degrees Celsius.
That's
Got it.
actually almost very accurate. That's a great guess.
That is accurate, but that's the
Oh.
only statistic I know because it's from the story that we'll get into later. But it's the only conversion I know. So do with that what you will. All right. But it's been mad hot, yo. And I don't know, like, if you've been experiencing this, I would love to get your take on this. But I just feel like part of it certainly is hearing about global warming, being conscious of it and thinking of it. But as I've experienced the past few summers of my life, it seems like they've been a lot more extreme than the summers I remember preceding them. And regardless of that, there's evidence much more thorough than my own thinking about the effects of global warming. And so
Yeah.
I think we're experiencing something a little different. It's heating up. What you think?
No doubt. I mean, we can't deny the evident change of the evident climate change that is induced by our pollution and how we utilize resources in this planet of ours. We have bored a hole through the atmosphere that is now letting in an increased level of heat that is melting solar caps, that is then rising the water levels, that is then changing the whole equation of essentially how this planet regulates itself. We have tipped it, we've tipped the scales of it. You know what I mean? So there's no ignoring that aspect of it whatsoever.
Yeah.
There's
You
no
almost earned yourself a reading drop with that. I know you've been reading, just hearing what you've been talking about. Nah, you know what I'm saying? Read about climate change. It's important, people. Right?
Yeah,
But
for sure.
it's happening, and I think it's putting a stresses. I know it's putting stress on the infrastructure and even the United States,
Mhm.
right? So, man, a few episodes ago in this podcast, we spoke about Texas and how this past winter they experienced pretty cold temperatures, snow, unusual for Texas. That shut down their power grid. This was back in February. That led to the death of 100 people, right? Texas is not inclined for inclement weather and the cold, right? They're not used to it. It's a very hot place. Okay. So we talked about that back on the podcast. Well, we're back here again. Texas, which, mind y'all, is the only state that operates its own electrical grid in the United States. That's monopolized by corporations in the rest of the country. I'm about to tell you more about that in a minute. Let me finish walking them in. So what's happened is now Texas. Here go the numbers. Let me give them to you slow because they're the only ones I got. Texas this past week reached 120 degrees Fahrenheit, right, which is 49 degrees Celsius. You know, for my folks on that system. You know what I'm saying?
The rest of the world.
That's hot. Yeah.
Whoever
they may be. Right? That's hot. Right? And so these electrical grids failed again. Right? And people are without power. There have been power cuts. They've been rerouting the power from other systems. So this tells me, one, that Texas is running its own electrical grid, and that ain't that easy to do. It tells me, two, that extreme weather conditions are leaving these systems at risk, right? And I think we can only expect to see more extreme weather systems until we make a sustainable change as far as clean energy and as far as global warming and climate change, right?
Yeah.
And reducing. So I wanted to holler at my brother, you know, who mowed and dabbles in the energy space, to just get your take on what's going on here in Texas, what's going on here in terms of what's happening with this energy system. What should we do? What are the possibilities? What are other places doing? And if you could bring us those answers, Brother Sway, we'd be riveted to hear your take.
The crowd waits with the bated breaths of energy analysis.
Pens quiver above notepads as he's about to speak.
Pens quiver above notepads. That is hilarious, my dog. That is hilarious. Hey man, but look, when it comes to Texas and the energy space, right? The infrastructure failings are part of how energy, like, are part of this conversion system. Like, the technology that produces energy are usually prone to high maintenances, right? So for instance, in South Africa, our issues is that our plants have not been maintained over time. The cash that was supposed to go into that is cash that has been squandered, and therefore we're now at a place where systems are failing quicker than we can afford to repair them, like that. So in the case in Texas, where it might not necessarily be a corruption-induced deficiency, it could just simply be a case of a system that is just, it's just the natural causes, right? Natural causes of not anticipating this level of heat wave, or how many people are utilizing the facilities. I'm sure AC is booming in every single corner of Texas, which is a high energy.
Yeah, it would be, but they've actually introduced regulations that people are told to keep their thermostats are at above 78 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, I don't have the calculation for that into Celsius, but it's essentially saying you can mildly mitigate with your thermostat, but you're not allowed to have it blasting, right?
Yeah, that's all energy regulation. That's all energy regulation. Exactly, right? So it's kind of like it comes together. It's always a cocktail of things that make a whole system fail in that way. But to see what is essentially the heart of American gas, because Texas has some of the largest gas reserves in the world. You know, you're talking about an area that is literally the heart of the U.S. shale gas revolution, and where essentially most of any oil and gas products all come through to the Texas hub. That's outside of your Omaha, your Oklahoma, places like that, outside of there, but it's just like Texas is the place for it. So for that to happen there is why this is quite interesting. But the US has always had an interesting relationship with energy suppliers. Dare I say the words Enron? If anybody knows what that is. Speaking in code.
For those, give them a little bit. Give them a little slice of the code. You know what I'm saying?
So essentially, right, the cool thing about the energy market in the US is that you guys have a lot of options. There's a lot of options of the service providers that you can choose, right? Now, granted, there also is a monopoly on this service provision. So for Texas to be on its own grid, it means that it's not necessarily a part of what would be a national grid, which would be who the government chooses to be the suppliers of their energy products, or the government themselves. Yeah, but you know, the government via corporations that they have a lot of interest and stake in, which is something that happened throughout during the 2008 crisis, or the 2011 oil crisis. The government came through, bought up a bunch of oil companies, or incentivized other companies to purchase large amounts of oil companies. So by being on its own grid, it means that it is detached from that entire system. Um,
Mm. So I
being
think what you've, yeah, no, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead, because I can keep speaking on the technicalities. There's
I
no
know you
end.
can.
There's no end to the technicalities of it.
And that's why you're overqualified as a resource in this conversation. So I appreciate you. But I wanted to just call out really quickly that I think what you've illuminated is that, like, whether it's Texas trying to operate on its own or the United States trying to operate on a whole, everybody's had issues trying to operate this power grid. It's one, to our hypothesis, right, not a very easy thing to do, to regulate these energy grids. South Africa is having its own struggles and trying to figure things out in new ways. So taking into account that under the best conditions, supplying an entire population with energy is a very difficult thing to do, and that we're seeing that the ways we've done that in the past have caused us to be in a deficit in terms of sustainability, in terms of energy, in terms of the way that we're using up our Earth's resources. What do you see as kind of the next phases or trends or things that people will start to gravitate towards in terms of trying to create sustainable energy futures?
I think, my G, if we look at where everything is moving towards, right? People are now starting to have their own networks. People are starting to have their own cellular network, like their own literal cell network. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
People are.
can't wait.
What are you gonna call yours?
I don't have a name for it yet. I'll have to scroll through interesting Wi-Fi names on Reddit, but I just want to have my own bubble of Wi-Fi, like my own cell and Wi-Fi VPN. Oh yeah, I want it.
Exactly, right. And so there's a lot of movement towards being self-sufficient in everything that we consume. And the cool thing about where the technology of energy is going to now is that the cost of this technology becomes cheaper. It becomes more convenient to be able to be placed in your home. Um, Throw blockchain technology into there, then you have a whole system where, like, now you, Miles, as a power producer, and I, as a power producer, can be able to switch off of each other. Here's a cool example, right? Here's a cool example. So essentially, what you'd be able to do, essentially, with blockchain, is that you can be on multiple grid, a multiple grid network that then regulates when you're going to be coming home and when you're going to be leaving, and then being able to switch on and off your usage of that grid, and that grid and the usage of energy, and you're pulling that from, let's say, your neighbors. So let's say I leave the house and you're my next door neighbor, and we're on the same network. I can then tap into your energy. I can then tap into your energy supply while you're gone.
That gets dicey. It's a great idea for communities that are tight knit, but I could very quickly see neighbors getting mad
Yeah.
at each other. I dig where you're taking us.
But like, you can't think of it necessarily as neighbors, but essentially what you have to think about is
Fair.
that.
It's more anonymous
Exactly.
than that.
Exactly. And that's like the digitization of everything. It's like, it's literally the internet of all transactions and movements. Like, so it's just an efficient way. It's just an efficient way of being able to disperse energy and share it amongst each other. So that's a cool example.
And I think we see some of the beginnings of that now, right? We've seen people for a while, they were saying, ethanol, right? It was like have your own machine to turn, what was it, like unused vegetable or like used
Yeah.
vegetable oil into fuel for your vehicle. And they were producing vehicles that could run on that. And then we started to see a big push for solar, people putting solar panels on roofs,
Mhm.
people buying into Tesla. Now we see people with the power banks at the crib. that you put in your garage and it charges your car and powers your home with the solar panels, and it's all part of the system. So we're seeing people getting used to the idea of producing their own power.
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting world where that's the case, and that's a shared network. So
Yeah.
thank you,
That's what
sir.
that's what I'm
for giving-
optimistic. That's what I'm
Yeah, yeah, no,
optimistic about our future, bro. Like about our future, it's just that there is so much there's so much pull towards people being able to be more sustainable and being aware of the different things that we can do. It does suck that we've had to abuse the earth in order to get to a place where we're now looking for these technologies, but there is a big effort in trying to get these things down to even rural communities in Africa, right? And being able to create low cost devices that can be on these makeshift homes and then at least power that. So there's over here we tend to think that the future is quite literally bright.
Oh, I like what you did there. I like what you did there with that closing metaphor. But I also like how you there's a push to do these things for people out there in places.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know Mandulo. I'm a little bit familiar with the solar panel project. You know what I'm saying? I know
That's
it's going to
right.
be computer labs that are entirely solar powered that are going to be put wherever our partners allow us to put them. That's
Yeah.
right. Brilliant. Brilliant. That is stumbled upon.
I think we done did it. Yo, Miles Xavier, if I jump into the ocean and I go underground and I hear a wave, does that mean we moving into current news? Oh,
Surf's up.
ooh.
Surf's up.
With that particular drop, I just realized we haven't utilized our most important drop of this show, where we always pay respect, love, and comfort to
That's right.
always, always. It's a safe place for women over here. All right.
You can never just throw that out there without it seeming like
I'm trying to cover
just
something.
oddly ambiguous. Like, all right.
It's a safe space for women over here, all right?
I appreciate the sentiment.
I'm not trying to convince anybody of that. I'm just saying.
What we need. Actually, no, we just need to bring more. We need to bring more people on in general, but we need to bring more people that identify as female on and let whatever they say speak for itself.
Undoubtedly.
Presence, comfort, energy.
Undoubtedly.
To come. We do it.
But I don't need them to come to let me know to tell all men that your obligation as a man is to make women feel comfortable. That's, I mean,
True.
that
True
is
indeed.
the obligation of a man, making women feel comfortable. Boom, bro. Yo, Coca-Cola lost $4 billion in market value after Cristiano Ronaldo suggested people drink water instead.
Oh, I totally thought the current news was gonna have something to do with the ladies.
Oh.
I totally thought we were going somewhere completely different.
You thought that was a long, elongated, smooth transition? No, I just wanted to say hi to the ladies. That's all.
Oh, okay, cool.
Wanted to acknowledge them. That's all.
But no, I love it.
But
now
that you put that there, though, in acknowledging ladies, there has been a case that in India right now, there is a huge push towards the femicide that's happening there, as they would describe it, and as it is. Women are. I think there's a woman raped in India every 15 minutes. Is the statistic? That's
ouch.
yes.
And I'm a man, nigga. Like for real. Like that's a horrible thing to hear. That struck fear in my heart, and I'm a dude, so I can't imagine what women feel knowing that statistic. I can't imagine what women in India are going through. I mean, this isn't the first time I've heard it brought up as an issue, but to that point, it's an issue everywhere. Women don't feel safe here in the States. Women don't feel safe in South Africa. It's a man thing worldwide, and it is up to men to talk about that and to make space for that conversation. Yeah, man, it's difficult. I was reminded earlier this week how difficult it is to hear another man, especially a man that might be older than you or above you, in a position at work or whatever the case may be, those same dynamics of power that play out in these situations of sexual violence, right? To hear a man that has that position and talk about women in a way that makes you uncomfortable, it's very difficult to say, what the fuck? Like, hey, that's not cool, bro. And sometimes all we manage to get out is I don't know about that, right? But like, we have to start making space and challenging ourselves to call that stuff out, because bro, it is every woman, and we've said this before on the podcast too, but every woman I speak to knows a woman that's been assaulted, right, in some phrase or form. And not very many guys I speak to know or hang out with dudes that do that. And that's bullshit.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for cursing so much in this segment, y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Sorry, Mama Gila.
It's messed up. It's messed up, man. It's messed up. So, and we do have to start calling it out. So I appreciate you making space for that.
It is. And in being responsible with this platform, it was a student-led protest for the death of Jana in West Bengal. It says that students from the college where Jana was studying took to the streets the day after her body was discovered, carrying banners and placards. They demanded justice, including calls to hang the rapists. The students continued their protest for several days before the state was, like other parts of India, put under lockdown due to sharp increases in COVID. Sankha Chatterjee was the first police officer on the scene. She had blood all over, he said. I haven't felt so helpless and angry in my 11 years. In 2012, it's been a situation again. It's been a situation where a woman is brutally raped and murdered, and a system is failing her. Community is failing her, and again, the youth are taking to the streets to be able to make a difference. That's something that we're seeing in this generation of ours, where people are becoming a lot more bold, people are becoming a lot more active, and we support that. We lift her name up. We lift the people that are close to her, that are impacted by this death. It definitely reminds me of Unene over here in South Africa. It was a very similar thing to a very similar problem. Last year, over 250,000 rape cases, 250,000 rape cases were reported in the court systems in India, which means that surely the number is at least double that size. So yeah. I like what you said about being able to call people out about it. But how do you call men out about it? Because dudes will show one face in front of you and be totally different. And that's what I remember I said this to a female friend of mine. I said, men change when they are with their women, right? Men, how a man is in the confines of his own private space or with that of a partner or woman or anything is different. It's completely different. So sometimes it's even hard to be able to gauge who this person is from casual encounter.
Yeah. Well, I don't think every man has the obligation to catch predators, right? I mean, Chris Hansen is out here bodying it, right?
But he's catching different type of predator.
We do need both for sure. And I was about to say we do need more people professionally dedicated to the prevention and to follow up and solve in a thoughtful way and to investigate in a thoughtful way sex crimes, right? But as the individual man, sure, there are going to be things that other individuals hide from you as a man. But we also all know dudes that say stuff, that do stuff that's a little bit suspect. And sometimes, and I'm mostly speaking from my younger years, right? I'm mostly speaking from college, high school, but even, yeah, my circle's gotten much, much smaller and I don't go out as much. But I think we've all been in situations where we've seen or heard something that's not okay going on. And I think what we need to normalize is speaking up in those situations, right? Yeah. And calling that out and making sure that not only that the women in that situation feel safe, but that you set a standard as a leader, anybody who considers themselves a leader, anybody who considers themselves an ally, right? You set a standard, even if you're not talking to the other men that are present and saying, this is not okay. I don't think this is okay. And whenever I see this type of thing happening, whatever it is, making women uncomfortable on any level. You know what I mean? Even discussing women in a way that is sexually violent or anything like that. Nah, we're not doing that. And making sure that that is the norm, the understood standard in your circle is your minimum duty.
I
Anybody
judge
that's
men by that.
we should judge people. We should judge other men by how they treat women. You should, but even broader than that is the sentiment, right, that I've heard, and I wish I could attribute this quote to somebody. But what I've heard is that, judge people how they treat the people they don't have to treat well, right? The people that are, for whatever society's reason, under them, smaller than them, weaker than them. That's how you judge people. And not to say that women are smaller and weaker, but as the physical biological structure of men, we're obligated not to put physical pressure on women because we're biologically bigger, right? That's the thing. Don't hit women. We all know that. That's basic, right?
Yeah.
So the last point I wanted to make on this is just that your obligation is to make sure that your circle has that understanding. If we don't force ourselves on women, we don't trick women into nothing, we don't do nothing, none of that, nothing shady at all in that regard, especially when it comes to sex and consent, period. And if you want to go beyond that, it's not about catching predators or catching people that are hiding this behavior, because anybody that's hiding how they deal with women from the people around them, you might want to examine yourself for predatory tendencies. But your deeper obligation isn't to check those people out. Your deeper obligation is to address the systemic nature of gender-based violence, of sexism, right? And acknowledge that there are norms in the workplace, there are norms in society, there are norms throughout the world that perpetuate unsafety, right? Dissafety, right? for females. And how do we address those structures and those norms? I'm looking at you, colleges, right? I'm looking at you, corporate workplaces, right? You know what I'm saying? And so that's where you get steep.
Well, how do we treat past transgressions and people that how do we treat mistakes, let's say, how do we treat things that have happened, men that have, let's say, assaulted women in the past, or men that have put women in uncomfortable situations? What is the appropriate response to that, even if it's something that they're no longer doing?
I don't think there's a quick answer to that. I think it depends on, is this a one-time scenario? Are we talking about one scenario in your life that got confusing, that's an outlier in the way that you deal with women? Or are we talking about a pattern of behavior that consistently puts you in a position where things get muddy, right? And if you're consistently putting yourself and your potential sexual partners in a position that could get muddy, then there's something to be analyzed there, and there's probably something to be held accountable there. But a big part of that is what happened. How many times did it happen? Was there a pattern of intentional behavior? And then, I lost my thought of what the flip side should be. But man, that's
I hear you. What we can do is ask a woman. We've got Mo over here close by. I think it would be wrong for us to answer that ourselves as men. Hey Mo, can we ask you something?
Oh, as she's walking over here, the last thing I was going to say, and the other flip side of it is how the man takes it, right? Like if somebody brings this to your attention, if a woman brings this to your attention, do you take it as, do you dismiss it, or do you really take it in as something to address and something to take seriously? I think that's the last thing to consider.
So I got Mo's over here. Mo, can you hear her?
Well, no, I cannot hear her. Can you lift the mic? Can you
come closer? Just a little closer. No, you're not going to be on camera. The important questions.
Yo, first of all, because this whole thing is about consent, we're talking about consent. Do you consent to contributing to a conversation about consent?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
That's consent.
It is.
On this camera.
I do. Thank you.
I think the core question is, what should be done as we consider the past transgressions? If it comes out that a man has had an inappropriate interaction with women in the past, how do we deal with that? in general? What should be the process?
I think that the best way to analyze how to move forward is how much initiative the man himself takes, right? So before you, as an outsider, are able to kind of decide how to feel, the person also has to figure out like how they want to move forward about the situation. So some men that, not some, most men that have encounters that are like under, some kind of like murky encounter, a lot of the times what they do is if they're not caught, they'll just move on with their lives. Or if they are caught, they'll either serve their sentence or whatever and then just proceed. Like there's no type of I'm going to be an activist of change, like someone who's like, this is me in the past, I'm going to make it my duty to help other brothers and teach them, or just be like an active voice of change, because that way people will know you're serious, right?
Yeah.
Or just, even if it's not like as public, because not everything has to be public, but in your own circle, be that person that owns up to their story, like, this was me, this is my past, this is how I move forward. And I think that's the best way to judge if someone's really like how you feel about that situation. Because if, for example, how many men, like a lot of women, especially in South Africa, there's, I don't know the statistic, but a lot of them say that by the time they're married, they find out that their husbands are actually have assaulted someone in the past, because in South Africa we don't have an open predators list. So what then, how do you feel about that, right? Because obviously you've had this marriage where your husband hasn't assaulted you, and but then at the same time, right, like let's say he's changed, but how are you expected to feel about that if this person's kept quiet about it and not made any type of like active behavior
owning up to their
yeah,
own
100%,
shit.
and I think in that case everyone has the right to be upset and angry, because this person's not, like I'm saying, is not owning up to what they've done, and they're not being someone who's trying to change that. So again, it goes back to really how the person themselves is treating the situation. Then everyone else can decide how to feel about it.
Damn.
Yeah, that's real. And the work is theirs to do, right? It's not
100%.
more work for women or the person that was involved, the survivor. The work is 100% on them.
Yeah.
Word.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you, Mo.
Local guest and current news sourcer.
Yeah, word. Yeah, we got to do that more, man. We gotta
Definitely
that
do.
more.
That was very helpful. Thanks for real, Mo. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we're surrounded by voices that have so much to share and to say, and I just, yeah, I'm just really glad that she was there to shed some light on that.
That's the CEO of our foundation right there.
Yes, sir. Hold on one time. I got some
make that
dance
drop. Gotta
for
make
that.
that drop.
That's right. You know what I'm saying? Double drops for CEO Mo.
Indeed. Hey man, we done ran by Cristiano Ronaldo taking. I'm glad we got to do that though. I'm really glad we got to have that conversation, man.
Yeah.
I'm really glad. Off the script, but I'm down.
Happened how it's supposed to happen. Now, what happened with Captain Ronaldo, man? What's up, Captain Coke?
Captain Coke. Do Americans understand how big Cristiano Ronaldo actually is?
Nah. In general, nah. Not really.
He was the highest earning athlete. He's been the highest earning athlete, multiple highest earning athlete year after year after year after year.
LeBron is the LeBron of the United States of America. But Cristiano Ronaldo is the LeBron of the rest of the world.
That was gonna say that. It's LeBron is LeBron for sure, but no. Cristiano LeBron is how that goes. It's just in terms of fandom, popularity, whatever. We got a diverse audience. These guys know. Do your Googles.
They get
right? Do your Googles. You know what it is. You ain't gotta get into that. But sitting at a post-game conference, removes 2 Coke bottles away from the table, puts in a glass of water, says agua, puts it on the table, and then boom, Coca-Cola loses $4 billion worth of stock like that. 4 B's. I could do it 4 billion. I didn't take half of that.
What? This man cost a corporation $4 billion by taking their drink and putting it on the floor and putting water on the table.
Now, Miles, I hate to be an analyst about this, but when we speak of 4 billion, you know what would be dope is every time I start getting like talking about finances stuff, a green screen behind me sends me into like a Neil deGrasse Tyson wormhole of a background.
Just numbers, just all the equations that you always see for no reason. E equals MC squared behind you. The Pythagorean theorem for no reason. A chart that's pointing upward in like sequential zigzags. No doubt.
E equals MC squared. That's hilarious. But usually when we speak of this dip, it just means like stock market value right now. The stocks operate in a wave-like manner. It's an up and down of things. Let's say, for instance, when Elon Musk smoked weed on Joe Rogan's podcast and lost was $5 billion worth of Tesla valuation dropped in $5 billion. It jumped back up maybe even further the day after that, right? So what you're seeing essentially is just market sentiment playing itself on the stock market, which is a thing that happens.
Perception, right? If I can quote the great Matthew McConaughey, right? It has not landed. It is no matter. It's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's fairy dust.
Yes.
Doesn't exist.
And that's the financial market. You making money off of AMC. It's not like people are running to the movies.
I did. I ran to the movies.
And that is why it's a good investment, ladies and gentlemen.
And that is both hilarious and true, right? It's something that I was interested in, that I cared about, and that's why I saw an opportunity in it. It didn't boost because, this is the phenomenon in stocks we're seeing. It didn't boost because so many people like me actually went out and went to the movies, but a lot of people understood the idea and thought about it and thought about the company, and that was enough. So it's all about perception. It's not really about action and what really happens, right? Same thing with Elon Musk smoking weed. Elon Musk smoking weed doesn't mean that he is now addicted to a Schedule III narcotic and will thus tank the company and all of his associated organizations because he is unfit to lead. And then you just hit some weed a little bit, right? And so, but the perception was, oh man, this guy's a joke. This guy's a clown. He can't lead these companies. This is worthless, right? And so that's what we continue to see, is like these games of perception. And meme stocks like AMC have doubled down on that, allowing people on the internet to collude and collaborate and to incubate these ideas and allow them to proliferate. Look at me, look at that. Wear soup on y'all. You know what I'm saying? I'm AI with the adjectives. You dig me? But that's real. That's what's happening, is that, you know, we're seeing the connection between the actual product and the actual sales become further and further than from what happens to these companies in the stock market, to the point where nothing bad happened with Coke. There wasn't a recall. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't some new study that found out that Coke is eating away at the lining of your intestines when you drink it. You know what I'm saying? A dude just told you water is better. And we knew that.
Here's a fun question for you. How much money moves back, let's say pre-COVID, right? 2018, 2019. How much money on a daily basis was moving in New York City? Being transacted, traded, moved daily? How much financial transaction was happening?
This brings me back to my shark days. For those of y'all who don't know, I was once asked, how many sharks are in the sea? Got that one right. Here we are again. How much money was moving through New York?
Yeah, on a daily basis.
What time? On a daily basis.
On a daily basis.
$444 billion.
3 trillion.
Nick, what? $3 trillion?
$3
Yeah.
trillion. So, right now, if we're gonna be thinking of, and but also at the same time that's fund management accounts being transferred. This is purchasing into stocks, purchasing out of stocks. The quantity. This is $3 trillion worth. Now when we now when it's wild, right? So now when we say
It's 1 billion sharks. Sharks. How many sharks is in New York? Probably a fraction of that. So how much stock is probably 4 billion?
carry the one.
I didn't carry the
Carry
one.
the one.
You always got to carry the one. That's the name of the episode. Carry the one.
Carry the
All right.
one.
Continue.
So this stream of capital that's moving through on the days when, let's say, your Tesla stocks go down, it could so happen to be that stream that usually would go through that usually would be let's say moving towards the Tesla route is not as it's not as big of a stream, but that stream is still moving, which is why the next day it was able to bounce back. So it's good to I like to think about capital flow at that scale, like water running. And if these large corporations have been able to cut themselves, just what they call arteries out of this river, and they've been able to amass. Some even end up becoming a river of their own, a la your Amazon, a la your Googles and Facebooks and whatever the case may be. And that's kind of how it goes. So when you think that company is losing value like that, when you hear it lost $4 billion worth of value, it's not like, we're not getting a Coke ad at this halftime show at this at the Super Bowl this year. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but I do like what you say about the proximity towards actually what a company is doing and their market value dissipating over time. And that is the financial revolution that we're watching happen in front of our face, my friend.
Yeah, it's man, I'm so appreciative of you being able to kind of break it down from the perspective of investing. And because I love just seeing it in just like pop culture and just being like, wow, look at what moves the world. Look what makes the world go round. And it's increasingly celebrity, right? It's increasingly clout, right? And it's really interesting. The Cristiano Ronaldo
nice
Coke thing reminds me of Elon Musk's, his name comes up again, Dogecoin tweet, where all he tweets is Dogecoin, and that is immediately up. And that has nothing to do with his impact in Tesla. It has nothing to do with his business, or it's just this guy's thinking about it. And it's I was talking to the homie the other day, and I was saying how thought leadership is the new fancy word for influencer, and that's where
that's so true.
That's just where we're going, bro. Is the increasing legitimacy of all of these fairy dust entities.
But good work prevails. Good work. The cream rises to the top. I do think that the intention for all of us is to be able to build platforms and institutions that that can give people a better opportunity, or participate in organizations that are already doing that sort of thing. Make that the best that it can be in terms of quality of service provision, in terms of your ethics, in terms of the impact that you want to be able to do. And just like that, you're changing the world. Do what you care about.
Word. And if you're wondering what the flip side of everybody dumping Coke is, right, for Ronaldo, think about who makes a lot of water.
Waldo? Oh, damn.
Water.
Oh, I thought Waldo Goldling. I thought you were gonna jump from what? I got you.
I see what you tried to do. I see what you tried to do there. I could appreciate it.
Try to keep up.
I was saying. So Coke's down, water's up. Nestle makes a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
You can get into some. No. That's too much. That's too deep.
It's too
for
deep.
The intro.
But because there is a monopoly on water.
Indeed. Just like there's a monopoly on power.
Exactly. With that, about that 3 trillion, that's such a fun that's such a fun number.
Yeah, that's crazy.
To know. I know, but also it makes a lot of sense when you realize that the majority of billionaires in the US stem from fund management and private equity. So from that perspective, those are all institutions that require a lot of financial activity, right? The capital has to be increasing at a certain rate, and at that particular at that echelon of capital, you're able to manipulate the market quite intensely. You're really able to manipulate the market in many different ways. We saw Enron do it, going back to talking about the monopoly of energy providers. But that's the reality of the US system. And then when you look into what those companies are holding, in there lies why your healthcare is so high and why student loans are so high.
Yeah. It's crazy to look at those numbers and be reminded that $3 trillion moves through New York in a day, give or take, right?
Of
Fluctuates
activity.
probably a little bit. Yeah, lowers now.
Mm.
And but we don't want to pay each of our workers $15 an hour, right? It just speaks to the disparity of what even numbers are being talked about when it comes to corporations and business and individual people. Granted that that's a whole marketplace, but the individual, it's a wide, vast chasm
It
of wealth
is.
disparity.
That being said, we're into recommended and review already.
That's right. That's right. I'm so happy. Hip hop is back.
Yes.
Boy.
Yes. So we're starting with that Gold Link album, Haram.
Man. I'm gonna let you go first. What you think?
I dig the artistic attempt of it. I dig that he's trying to come with a different sound. I've found that Gold Link has been very good at playing the unorthodox hip hop sound while still being able to have while still having it be very easy on the ear. I think that's always been his talent, is being able to veer away from what is particularly popular sound and still be able to make it dope, right? So if you look at and After That We Didn't Talk, that was grabbing straight from that SoundCloud. That was grabbing from that SoundCloud instrumental sounds, right? Because that's how, like, when we started listening to Goldie, he was jumping on top of the beats that we didn't even think were like even capable of rapping to. You know what I mean? Think about that Aquafina track. Like that offbeat,
Yeah.
and he catches us still.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you situating us in some of his discography, man. I think from the God Complex, which was his first like put together body of work, I definitely heard exactly what you said, man. Unorthodox but easy on the ears. Definitely soulful, definitely borrowing a lot in its use of 808s and instrumentals and samples from 90s R&B. I think Gold Link is the hip hop predecessor, selection soaked predecessor of like even the beats that Brent Faiyaz chooses. Not so much tonally and singing and stuff like that, but a lot of those nostalgic soul samples, I think, is what he does really well. So moving from that very and I say selection, I gotta big up selection for this sound. Just the bouncy synthesizers, the deep bass, the just that borrowing from Afro beats and different places, and extended interludes and beat switches. It's just very reminiscent. If you don't know about selection, I encourage you to look them up on SoundCloud before you even jump into the Apple Music. Figure out find the old stuff, the stuff that has like Gold Link, Esta, Sango. And if you know any of those artists, you are very blessed. Go search it out. But that transition from the God Complex to After That We Didn't Talk was him, I think, doing that in a much more polished way. Moving there to At What Cost is my favorite.
I was about to say that's my favorite Gold Link album too.
Gold Link album, right? It's just it's summary. He shows he can rap for real on tracks like Kokomo Freestyle, but his use of even interspersing female vocals into like bar heavy tracks. It's beautiful. It's balanced. The entire album is a vibe, and it's it bends genres, right? As much as that's genre bending is overused and
Mm,
bleh, that's
mm.
what it does. And so from there, and I'm probably sure I'm getting back to Haram, but he goes from there to Diaspora, which is very much Afro beats influence,
Yeah.
right? And I that's my least favorite project because it felt like other artists were using that influence of Afro beats, using that beats of selection. We're doing what Gold Link does really well, or they were doing what he does really well, and he wanted to show that he could do it better. And it almost seemed like, to
I think it
me, it
was
almost
too
seemed like
much.
what?
I don't think it was too much. Too
I'm
much.
not saying it was too much.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it felt like him trying to make a statement, whereas his other projects have really just felt like him trying to make music,
I got you.
right? With Diaspora. And so we come to this project, and man, listening to the first half of this project, it's the most happy and surprised I've been listening to a project in a long time.
Interesting.
The burying the vocals under the bass, with somebody who can really rap, who's with somebody who uses their vocal inflection really well. That worked for me. The first couple, those first couple of songs, I love that NLE Choppa was the feature on the first track.
Mm-hmm.
Not what you're expecting from a Gold Link album. Not what you're expecting from the guy who gave us Crew, which is probably his most, like, you know what I mean,
Still epic,
popular song. And for those of you who don't know, it goes a little something like, no, I'm just playing. About to start singing it. There's money around me.
and he
That's
does
that
it.
joint.
Yo, but with
I
that,
had to give him an idea. Go ahead.
off of that Diaspora, I did have some Afrobeat sprinkle into it, but I still found it to be Gold Link doing what he does, which is stepping into a different type of sound and execute. I enjoyed that album more than most people did, I would say. You know, I thought it caught me at the right time. I remember me and you were in disagreement with that, but this new step now surprisingly wasn't that this album might be my least favorite. But what I do like from Gold Link, I like a lot. Uh, it's, you know, it just so happens that the past albums that he's had has been some I enjoyed majority of it. In this particular case, there's hits and misses with it, but more importantly, it reminds me of somebody who does that sound and that style, in my consideration, better, which is that Bari. That Bari Mr. Glass album is still, to me, it's one of the most underrated joints. It's what this album is trying to be.
That's really interesting.
Mm.
I dig that Barry album too. If you've checked out Who is Chris King, very SoundCloud rapper, very much in the same vein with, yeah, just not being scared to layer that voice and almost have it alluding to lyrics. You're not really catching what he's saying.
Yeah.
You're just kind of vibing with the overall sound of the track.
Yeah.
And I get that, man. I was listening to it and I was like, I love what he's doing, experimenting here. I was almost like sad when I get to track 5 or 6 and you hear him no layered vocals. You hear his vocals kind of dry.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, he's back to kind of the more acceptable, more like
traditional,
even intelligible, right? Like you can hear what he's saying type of beats. And then the back half for me didn't work. The back half felt like it was leaning, maybe it was only a couple songs here and there, but it felt like in the way that Diaspora was doing Afro beats, it felt like he was doing grime for a little bit of the back half of that album. And some of that, not that he can't do it, not that he's not talented, but some of that didn't hit for me. So I rocked with the experimental stuff. I get if people don't get it. Really quickly, I will give some of my my highlights. White Walls, gotta be.
I love that they left that beat open.
Yeah. I loved White Walls.
I already wrote my bars to it. I already wrote my.
You got your 16. All right, see, that's the type of Patreon content we need. That's coming soon. Thump Chronicles, I dug that, and I really dug Raindrops. Raindrops might be my favorite song on the on the album. I really liked Raindrops. Yeah,
I was disappointed by Raindrops.
Really?
Yeah, because Flo Milli.
Man,
I've been a Flo Milli fan for a bit, and so I was hoping it would be something hard and not this glossy poppy pop grime, you know.
Yeah. No, Flo Milli definitely has
has bars, but I dug that one. I was disappointed by Terradome. That was a
Yeah.
low light for me. Didn't dig that. And then there's Culture Clash, which is the appropriately named Pop Smoke. What do we want to call that? Commemoration.
Homage.
It was an ode.
An
An
homage.
ode to Smoke.
For sure.
Every artist has a Pop Smoke ode. Some of them even have the Pop Smoke feature. I get it. I'm glad that his legacy is living on, but it's a little bit overdone as just like the last minute inclusion of the album that doesn't fit in with anything else, with the Pop Smoke ad libs and the New York drill beat. I don't feel like it need to be part of this album, but
But if it's going to be an experimental album, I could see why it would be there. The highlights for me, White Walls for sure. Thumb Chronicles, that Wayne Perry. That was pretty hard. I enjoyed that. Lowlights would be that Terradome, as well as that Flo Milli track. I wasn't feeling that entirely too much. Out of five mics, if I have to give it, I'd give it a 3 mics, 3 out of 5.
I can get with that. I can get with 3 out of 5 mics. I would give it. Yeah, I'm not going much higher. There's definitely stuff that I will and won't take from this album, so I'll give it 3.5 out of 5.
And maybe we'll say very quickly how I feel about that Headshots with that Isaiah Rashad, and save our full take for when the album actually comes out. But my goodness, it's a banger. It's a banger.
Yeah. I think we were left wanting more when the first single, man, slipping up with these.
Single.
Yeah, when the Unica Single first dropped, I think we were a little bit wanting more, and I think this delivered, showed more of the range of his sound, showed that he's capable of doing fun music, but that is oddly youthful and feels timeless at the same time. Then I think Headshots really captures what he's able to do there. So I mess with it.
What we enjoy most about him, This is what we love Rashad for.
Yeah, Isaiah Rashad, Headshots. All right, son, we got one more.
And this one's and you know how I feel about her.
Oh, well, you know how I feel about her.
I love her.
I love her too. I love her even more after this.
Dope. It's dope. It's polished. You know what it is, bro? It's clean. It's clean for me. It's clean. It's not my. It's got a song. Some of my favorite songs on it that I've been listening to on repeat. I would have liked. You know what? It's a good album. I'll put it that way. It's a good her album. She's too talented to do wrong.
Yes. Her, back of my mind. I mean, I was very impressed, right? Like, I've been a fan of her for a while, but this was, as a whole album, to deliver this after, a couple of packages and repackages of some packages of redropping of some of the same music, that was also very impressive. I think this really solidified her as not going anywhere among the rising stars of R&B, right? Like, so this album, I was just blown away by how not only like cohesive it was, like she sounds like she's in her bag, putting in a great space of song making throughout the album, but it does have a little bit of something for everybody, from the feature with Baby to the grand opening of We Made It, right, to the Cordae. Like, that track rides, and I think, and that's some of the most that I've liked Cordae, and I think that's Cordae stepping into that feature bag. Dare I say that J. Cole has held when it comes to these R&B songs. Cordae was sounding like Cole on the Ari Lennox album or on the Jeremiah Plains joint. So shout out to Cordae for being able to have a solid performance there. And I think she picked beats well. I think it was paced well. It was easy to listen to. That it in a way that Hotels by Jasmine Sullivan was very like differently thematic. I loved going back and forth between Cheat Code on this album and then Mean It was like, dang, this had me both going, that's right, you tell them, and also like kind of looking deep inside. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of looking deep
There was a
inside.
little, yeah, there's a little bit of everything here, and so I just hats off. I've mentioned some of my highlights there. Give us some of your thoughts.
Definitely, you know, I'm a massive her fan. I've been saying that she is the future of R&B, and I think over here she shows her prowess in terms of how she's able to encapsulate so many different sounds of R&B. You know, you're going with that you're going with that baby track that you're mentioning. That's clearly for the radio. So boom, if you want a radio hit, boom, it goes like that. You got that Slide with YG, which was a radio hit. That Corday feature Trauma, pretty strong. It's I can see myself enjoying this at the just pressing it on play and having it run in the back. It's not my favorite her album, I must say. However, I as her is almost flawless to me.
Yeah, I can see that too. I could see it not being a true fan's favorite album by her, but I could see it also being as one that is important for her career going forward and is really shores up her discography,
Yeah,
um,
her
and body
range.
of work, right? So when I mean this to me like is right up there with some of the best. I mean, I don't know if it's better. I'm definitely not putting it above, but I would want the vinyl of this and put it next to Shea Butter Baby, of put it next to Summer Walker's album, put it next to
Yeah,
a few of those projects that as a whole we've seen just kind of be a statement piece for some of these artists' career.
yeah, no, definitely with her. I like that I'm seeing her collaborate a lot more with people. I dig that. I'd love to see her do some collab albums with Ninth Wonder, who produced Snow Allegra's Ugh Those Feels album, which is
Yeah.
still one of my favorite R&B.
Snow's coming back too. Snow
Indeed,
got something too. Violet something and Violet Skies or something like that.
indeed. I love Hit
Vince
Boy.
Staples told y'all get your candles.
Hit Boy and Her together. I think that's really cool. I downloaded this album on the Apple Music release or the Apple Music edition. So it said,
Mm,
with the latest Apple
mhm.
Music spatial sound update. That is pretty cool.
Nice.
It's pretty cool.
Sounds pretty. It's noticeably different?
It's noticeably different. It's noticeably different. Those AirPods are
What is-
incredible.
Oh, it's designed just for AirPods.
Apple products, as they put it. Oh, don't be that person. Don't be that person. Come on, man.
That's
Nah, Miles.
That's
I think you're the last person behind the picket line, and we're all just having the time of our lives. You would enjoy it so much.
I don't have an iPhone.
Then you would hate this product. Don't get it.
There we go. There we go. But one track that we didn't mention that is super highlight for me, and it is the reason that I will give this 4 out of 5 mics probably is that Bloody Waters with
Mm.
Thundercat on those drums.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. That Bloody Water song is too smooth. Too smooth.
Yeah, that's amazing. That elevates this album, along with that Corporate Day feature. Damage, is there. Is
Damage
there.
is one of my
So
favorite songs of the year.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So
Definitely.
4 out of 5 mics from me. I'm glad that big music is back.
Nice.
And I'm just happy to continue to review it with my brother. Continue to talk about it with y'all, man. This is amazing.
It's been a great time. Before we even wrap this up, what books are you reading?
I'm currently reading From Here to Equality, which is about reparations in the United States. I just got through reading Occupied Territory, which was about policing and the history of policing in Chicago. So that's what's on my nightstand, my digital nightstand. What about you?
That's pretty dope. I love how you read about it's like it shows a passion behind what you do. You know, it's like it even encroaches onto your leisure reading, and I'm very much the same way. I just finished The Upside of Down by Bruce Whitfield, which is a the South African economy and how it's failed, but the opportunities that exist in it. I'm tapping into Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, and I'm about to pivot maybe to the Bill Gates climate change book.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. That Bill Gates climate change book. You'll have to keep us posted. That'll be a recommended review for sure.
Indeed. It's quite pricey, but we'll see. Make a plan.
Yeah.
I might just have to catch that one on the old pirate way. but I enjoy purchasing books. That's the thing. I'm a book holder and reader.
Physical copy guy. I dig it. I dig it. I've had the opportunity to discuss some of the readings with Franklin on a weekly basis. Franklin is a homie that I work with. Shout out to Franklin one time. You know what I'm saying? You get a bomb drop.
Give it.
That's for the big homies. That's the big homies. But yeah, so I'm the digital digester guy. So I've been highlighting and stuff, and it's dope to be able to read it on my laptop, on my phone, or whatever. So there's space for all readers, but most important thing about reading.
Yo, nigga, your brother told us how you be all into reading and shit. Hey, that's some real good shit, my nigga, for real. Congratulations, nigga.
Read.
Indeed. And when you read a lot, you get to know things. And one of the things that we know.
Oh yeah, we know it. We know it. You know it? I remember when I first knew it.
I know it.
It was about 36 episodes ago that I first realized that I knew that y'all have so many options when it comes to choosing a podcast. And if you are here rocking at the end of this joint with hazelnut tones and chestnut tones, then that means that you are a friend of the show, and we appreciate you. We enjoy spending time with you. This is a celebration of life. It's a celebration of how good it feels to be Black and feel good.
My favorite thing.
Yep, my favorite thing too. And I hope it feels good to be you. And I hope you eat something delicious. I hope you hug somebody you love. I hope you had a wonderful Juneteenth, wonderful Father's Day, a wonderful everything. Peace, love, water. We gone.
So, in the bag.